I had an HR director that really took offense to me when I said that. When I said, if this is what you want me to do, then I question your integrity and now I feel like mine's at stake. And I could care less, because I always say this line. At the end of the day, when I'm no longer HR, I'm always Tamika. Tamika got to be able to sleep with Tamika at night. Tamika got to be able to be okay being in the head of Tamika. If at any time I decide that I'm not working in HR, or a company decides they don't want me working in the HR department, I can't find another job, I'm still Tamika. I got to be able to live with this. Hey y'all, this is Tamika, the face behind Hey HR. We're going to talk about a position that is so popular these days. I've noticed that so many of my clients, so many of the folks that watch my YouTube channel, like y'all, my subscribers, so many of the DMs, so many emails that I get, people are super excited about an employee relations career. And they are excited about starting that HR career, but specifically so that they can be an employee relations specialist or an employee relations professional within the human resources department. And I get a little nervous. I really, really do. When people want to start their HR career and the first thing that they do is become an employee relations professional. Y'all, this is not everything you think. I literally died laughing when someone said in the chat, it was when I went live, that they want to know all the tea. Honey, you're going to get way more than the tea you're looking for. So if you guys want to know all it takes, or what really happens when you become an employee relations professional, then definitely keep watching. So an employee relations professional is someone that really works in the human resources department. Sometimes they can work within another department that works along with human resources. But what I'm going to do is go over a bit of the regular duties of an employee relations professional, as well as the pros and cons, in my opinion, of working in employee relations. I've actually taken some of this information from the comments that I've seen, from the chats that we've had. And so a little bit of it is shared within my view. But I'll let you guys know whenever it's something a little bit off or different. But for an employee relations duties, some of their regular duties, is that union communication. So if you have a company where employees have organized and they create a union, they join a union, they bring a union with their team to start unionization type work, then guess what? You have to answer grievances. You have to abide and learn and really digest the contract or bonding agreement, which is typically referred to as a CBA. You really have to listen to a lot of employee concerns. If you have employees who are either not in the union or who feels, I want to handle this with HR before I take it to the union, they're constantly coming to you with different concerns. It could be anything super detailed or something really quick. I lost my password to this. But it could be something really, really detailed. I have a trend of missing this time on my paycheck, or I don't know exactly what my job duties are, and I've been having this long-standing issue. It could be so many different things. So I'm not even going to run into too many examples, because it really is exhausted with whatever it takes for them to do their job on a regular basis and when they're interacting specifically for work. But then you always have to stay in contact with your employment law attorney. Most times a company has someone designated as their employment law attorney, or at least a firm. If not, then if you have a union or you're working in employee relations, you definitely want to get one. I tell people all the time that I know I speak a lot about the law. I speak a lot about regulations, but I'm nobody's attorney. I didn't go to law school or anything like that. So it's expected that your employee relations professional is that person that has a really good relationship or constant relationship with your employment law attorney. And then sometimes you will find, or most times you will find, that employee relations professionals deal a lot with federal regulations that are just very, very common. So we'll start with FMLA. So that's your Family Medical Leave Act. And of course, that's US centric. So you're going to find that in companies that have at least 50 employees within a 50-mile radius, I believe it is. It could be a 100-mile radius. And that these employees are now eligible for your company to protect them with the Family Medical Leave Act. Now, if you guys are like, Tamika, how does that really pertain, or give me more information about the Family Medical Leave Act, then definitely check out this video, because I did a video where I talked all about workers' comp and FMLA. So it's definitely a deep dive there. I have it planned to do a series of videos about FMLA. So definitely subscribe so that you guys can be the first to know. Set that alert, hit the bell, all that great stuff. So you can be the first to know when that series drops, because I'm definitely doing an FMLA series. But they'll do a lot of interactions with that and mandating that and regulating it and keeping it uniform for all employees. No different than working with the ADA, which is the American or the Disabilities Act. And a lot of times there are tons of federal regulations that protect employees with disabilities. And so employee relations professionals take care of that as well. And then a bit outside of your unionization, but definitely can work with unionization as well, is your employee relations professional is going to handle like contract negotiations. Anytime that you're going to create contracts or stand with contracts, or make sure that you're staying in alignment with contracts, or making sure that there's a quality check to make sure you're always hitting those contractual agreements, or even mediation. You get to a situation where an employee and the company doesn't agree on something, and you're in that mediation process to come to an agreement similar to an attorney. So very, very important why this employee relations professional will work heavily with the employment law attorney that you have designated for your organization. And then corrective action plans. So we immediately think that when an employee relations professional is working with corrective action plans, that is specifically because an employee has not performed well. A corrective action plan could be that your company had an audit, and now this regulatory body is giving your company an opportunity to fix this through a corrective action plan. Maybe you've done something outside of your law or outside of good practices. It may not have been best practices, or maybe the result of what happened with your standard process really caused something really high level. Maybe someone died. Maybe someone became disabled because your policy or your process that you're practicing isn't working in the favor for that instance. Maybe you've done this policy and this process tons of times and never had this issue, but this one particular time it blew up. So there's a corrective action plan with your regulatory body to say, okay, for us to allow you to keep your door open, or for us to say that you're within standing of what you should be for your industry metrics, then we're going to give you a corrective action plan to correct this over time. So your employee relations professional will be involved with that too. No different than if they're in a corrective action plan process for an employee as well. But I just didn't want us to talk about corrective action plans and then derail it to just the employee. Y'all, it can be external bodies too. And that's why you'd have an employee relations professional, because they know what that regulatory body is looking for and they help fix that issue. And then also employee engagement. Maybe your employees just don't like being there anymore. They're not really responding when you send out stuff like, hey, you sending out free stuff, and they're not responding. You can say, well, you're going to get a $50 gift card if you just complete the survey, and you get like 2 people out of 2,000 that respond. Well, that tells you that your employees aren't really engaged. If you're having town hall meetings and normally your chat is really busy if you're online, or normally you have a lot of people asking questions and all of a sudden you notice that that changes over time, that's another indicator that employee engagement is down. Obviously, attrition is a really good example of employee relations not being where it should be. So you'll get of employee engagement not being where it should be. So you get your employee relations professional involved. employee. I feel like we're just saying employee. The next thing might be sexual harassment. Y'all, sexual harassment has such a gray definition. I am somebody who strongly believes in a sexual harassment policy. I totally have learned in my career that sexual harassment, constant training on a regular basis is so important. I have been a victim of being sexually harassed as well. Not in the workplace, but it really opened my eye up for the workplace, because I was that person who was very, very much offended by the sexual harassment that I received. And so it's really good to have someone such as an employee relations professional who understands those gray areas and really understands the employee population, really understands their culture, really in tune with what law is, really can critical think really well, because sexual harassment situations are so different, because the definition of it is so gray that you really have to tread lightly with it. And let's not forget, I think the biggest thing that we tend to forget, and this is why employee relations to me is a very, very sticky area. I wouldn't want a brand new employee that's never touched HR to start their career in my employee relations position. If I had a department and I was hiring an employee relations professional, best believe they're going to be well-rounded on HR. That's just me. Every company doesn't work that way. But that's the way I work. Because sexual harassment, I think, is one of the things where we take it very lightly. Maybe we don't find what this employee has been offended by to be a big thing, right? We never know what our action can cause for that employee long term. Again, you're talking to someone who's been a victim of sexual harassment. It is almost something that I can't even say is a way of indicating if you've messed with their life long term. You don't know what triggers may have been created from that sexual harassment situation. You don't know what areas they felt they have healed from that's now a reopened wound. And so please, guys, I say this really highly because I appreciate having over 5,000 subscribers and all of you guys who are very, very much in tune with Heyyy HR. I really hope that I give it to you wholeheartedly when I say tread lightly with sexual harassment. The last thing you want is for someone to walk away from a job and 10 years later, their life is still being affected by your mishaps and your steps. It's just huge. It's huge in my opinion. The next thing that we're going to talk about that are typical duties of an employee relations professional is intentional infliction of emotional distress. Gosh, I said that right after a sexual harassment. You just never know what managers may or may not have emotional intelligence. You never know what part of your presentations, your trainings, your company policies may not have thought of that emotional intelligence that we may need to do. That include cultural differences, that include different, new issues that we're experiencing too, like transgender. Like we're all still really learning what it looks like to help an employee through that process and to make them feel fair and equitable and inclusive while they're going through that transition. So intentional infliction of emotional distress is something that I feel obviously needs to be intentional. Sometimes we don't realize that what we're doing could look intentional, particularly if it's repetitious. So if it's like a repetitious behavior, you have to think in the eyes of the employee, because that's the way that any employment judge is going to think, or any employment law process is going to think, is in the eyes of an employee. So if it's repetitious and it seems really mild to you, you never really realize it's a problem, that could be seen as intentional. Obviously, you always have the intentional ones too. Somebody name calling, somebody, beating on somebody, someone allowing bullying or harassment or anything like that. And talking about bullying, harassment, I also did a video on harassment. If you're thinking about, okay, I want to work in employee relations, I really kind of want to get in there. Tamika, I'm super excited. I haven't heard anything yet where you push me away from it. Then you definitely want to check out my video on employee relations. You probably want to check out my video on DEI. All of these things are really pivotal in your career. Cool? And so finally, let's talk about some of the pros and cons. And I'm going to get to the pros last, because if you're serious about this, you're just going to watch it till the end so we can get to the pros. Let's talk about the cons, because I really want you to know kind of what you're walking into. And some of the cons of being an employee relations professional is you can have a varying work schedule. You never know when an employee is going to have a situation, particularly in organizations that run on very weird schedules. If it's a place that operates 24/7, if it's a place that requires employees to travel a lot, so they might not get back in time of work hours. Listen, employee relations professionals, when something hits off there, you're expected to be there. You never know if a regulatory body, any federal agency is going to come in at 7 in the morning and get started. Well, maybe your day doesn't normally start till 9 or 10. You're expected to be there. Maybe we've had so many issues that happen on the weekend. We just decide to rotate the employee relations professionals through the weekends. That can be another situation. Another thing is emotional burden. Emotional burden is huge. We think we want the tea until we realize that somebody hit a trigger for us. That something that they're experiencing, we've been a part of. Maybe we have someone that has a spouse that's abusing alcohol, and meanwhile we were raised by a parent that abused alcohol. That can be an emotional burden, definitely a trigger for us. Maybe you've had a family member that attempted suicide or did self-mutilation. Now that employee walks in the door and they're having that same issue. You're going to carry that emotional burden. If you don't carry that emotional burden, you don't need to work in HR. Because so many people say, I want to help people. I want to help this person. I really want to work in HR because I want to help others. I do my intake form for client calls, and I can't tell you, almost every single client will say, because I want to work in HR because I want to help others. If you really want to help others and you're being genuine about that, then you're going to have empathy for that person. You're going to feel some of that burden. You're going to realize that sometimes your resolution just might not be a resolution, and it's going to give you an emotional burden. Another thing is non-linear workload. Not every day going to be an easy day. Not every day going to be a hard day. Not every week is going to be a busy week. Not every week is going to be a not busy week. So be prepared for the non-linear workload. And then your toxic corporate politics. Y'all don't understand corporate politics, so you work in HR for 10 years, honey. That corporate politics will have you going crazy, because corporate politics is not defined. It's not like the traditional politics we see in the White House where we're reading through sections of this, this, and this. It's all of those things that you know in your head So-and-so's gonna get upset as soon as I put out this policy. So-and-so doesn't like this process. So-and-so's telling their employees this and doesn't think I know, and now I'm trying to refix this problem. Oh, you know what? We have this hidden confidential role that we're searching for because this ain't working on this side. You know what I'm saying? It's so many different things that happens that is literally corporate politics, and it can come off real, real toxic. And you as an employee relations professional, you're there because you're a neutral party for the employer and the employee. How you gonna sit with that? I mean, in my opinion, if you're okay with that, I question your integrity. I ain't gonna tell you no lie. I'm just that person. I had an HR director that really took offense to me when I said that. When I said, if this is what you want me to do, then I question your integrity, and now I feel like mine's at stake. And I could care less, because I always say this line. At the end of the day, when I'm no longer HR, I'm always Tamika. Tamika got to be able to sleep with Tamika at night. Tamika got to be able to be okay being in the head of Tamika. If at any time I decide that I'm not working in HR, or a company decides they don't want me working in the HR department, I can't find another job, I'm still Tamika. I got to be able to live with this. So the next thing is just going to be your complaints from your leaders and your managers. It's going to be unreal. You're going to say, well, listen, I'm here working for you, and you got more complaints than employees. It's just going to happen. I tell y'all all the time, it happens even for people who aren't employee relations professionals. So get ready, because employee relations professionals, now you look like the fixer. You're the person who's supposed to fix all these issues I have. Even when I don't realize that my issue really isn't an issue, I still expect you to fix this non-real issue. So get ready, because employee relations is a little bit different. I've done this thing for a while. I'm trying to tell y'all, like, employee relations is a different animal. It's going to be hard to walk into a place that has literally guidelines for you to follow. You're going to have to figure out how to create them, how to make them effective, how to determine how they're effective, how to create some metrics so that you can see the progress or lack thereof that you're creating with whatever you've created to make these employee relations processes successful. So now I told y'all I was going to save pros to the last, because I ain't got but two. Sorry, I ain't got but two. And you know, I'm not really a big employee relations fan. I remember one time I wanted to work in employee relations, and I'm so happy that opportunity didn't work out. But I'm not a big fan of it, because I think that it's a role that's totally like y'all really think that's the place to be? And I'm like, girl, stop working in HR first and then work up to employee relations. But anyhow, the two pros that I have, number one, is you're gonna get a comfortable pay. Most time employee relations professionals get paid very, very comfortable. They literally do. Now I will say that sometimes they're the first to get cut in the HR department if we decide to make cuts in the HR department. I should have put that as another con. My bad. But they get paid really well. It reminds me a lot of compensation specialists. Compensation specialists get paid really well, just like employee relations professionals. And then the next thing that I personally like, that I think is a pro, you might think so too, is autonomy in my work. I hate when somebody feels like they need to look over my shoulder all day. Either you trust me to do the work or you don't. So if you trust me to do the work, let me practice this good old autonomy, and you just look for my result. Most times employee relations professionals will have people like, Lily, leave them alone. They give them a task and then they walk away, because they ain't want to mess with it them damn selves. So that's really why. All right, y'all. So that really sums up my employee relations professional video. And I was thinking that this video would have been a little bit shorter, but I find myself going in way more meat and potatoes than I thought, because I really want to give a clear understanding, you guys. If I missed anything, then let me know. I know that I did not put the salary in there. I will definitely put a link to the resource to the salary information down in the description box. So if you want to know how much this position is being paid, then definitely check out the link in my description box. I have it for you there. For those of you who are new to Hey HR, hey girl, hey, welcome. So happy to have you. For those of you who are returning, I am so happy to be behind the camera and so happy to have you here with me. Listen, y'all already know what time it is. You know what your girl about to say. I just can't wait to see you in the next video.